We should never allow the government to decide what is acceptable speech and what is unacceptable speech. We should penalize behaviors, not opinions, and not speech. If you start trying to regulate speech, you start trying to regulate thoughts, you start trying to regulate beliefs rather than behaviors, there's no way that you're not going to abridge the constitutional rights of millions of Americans.
Get better than we be. We got good enough to destroy cash flow. You don't have to worry about going to jail for something petty. We got smart enough to decriminalize marijuana. How smart are we going to be in the next 15 or 20 years to keep us ahead of this curve? So that much like in South Africa suffered apartheid, you had Andy and other politicians that could make sure that Atlanta said, Coca-Cola, we love you. But if you don't pull out of South Africa, we're going to leave. We're not going to drink Coca-Cola anymore. Coca-Cola jumped on their side and apartheid ended. So we have an opportunity now. Because I'm mad, I don't have any good advice. But what I can tell you is that sit in your homes tonight instead of burning your home to the ground. You will have time to properly plot, plan, strategize, and organize and mobilize in an effective way. And two of the most effective ways is first taking your butt to the computer and making sure you fill out your sentences so that people know who you are and where you are. The next thing is making sure you exercise your political bully power and going to local elections and beating up the politicians that you don't like. You got a prosecutor sent your partner to jail and you know it was bullshit, put a new prosecutor in there. Now's your election to do it. You want a different senator that pulls marijuana through? Now is the time to do that. But
Police Department, under Executive Order 2020-92, Code Section 2-181. After 9 p.m., no pedestrian shall stand or transverse on any city streets, sidewalks, or parking lots. Any person who refuses to disperse are in violation of this order and is subject to arrest. The time is about 8:59.
There you have it.
I think that start to move in, just soon as we say that. So we're going to see how this unfolds and if they're going to start.
For those of you who are watching this video, you see what it started with. Big Brother is watching you. The video that you're going to see today is to explain to you all of how the protests, this idea of a revolution, of submission to one philosophy is essentially all a part of Big Brother. Big Brother represents the Socialist Democrats, the communists themselves. They have been trying for the last 4 years to get rid of Trump, to get rid of our Constitution, to get rid of our freedoms, to get rid of our liberties. And what I'm seeing today is so totally unbelievable, and it's terrifying. I feel like I should do this video to tell all of you, if we defund the police, if we get rid of our law and our order, and they say it's because we don't have protection for one race, being the blacks, it means that the socialists are going to have what they wanted. And that is the entire nation of our country will become a sanctuary. A sanctuary is essentially, you go there, you don't have anybody to protect you because they don't want you to have protection. That's what the communist and the socialist viewpoint is. When you are now a victim, then the next stage is you have no way of falling back on anybody when somebody shows up at your door with a gun or a knife and says you're totally defenseless because you can't call anybody. There is nobody. And that's what the Black Lives Matter movement is about. The socialists have the perfect platform right now to instigate a revolution that essentially says when we can change a person's whole life and to obstruct their ability to have free thought. And that's what they're saying by saying we don't need police. If they get rid of the cops, they get rid of the protection with them being law and order in this nation, then the next outcome, folks, is going to be the communists are going to walk in with their own army, and it won't be the military. It'll be whatever Barack Obama intends it to be. And then they just show up at your door, and the next phase of it will be open your Bible and read what it says about end times. The fact that the Antichrist will make everybody take a mark of allegiance to him, that your freedom, your liberties will be absolved for the betterment they claim, for the good of humanity. And this whole fanaticism that started with the murder, the killing of George Floyd, it's progressed now globally. Every nation in the world is now sort of like becoming brainwashed to the idea that blacks have been subjugated for so long, and now they've gotten enough people in the world to stand up with them and say, this is no longer about justice, this is about the subjugation, the subversion, the submission of the communist view, the socialist view, that if we take everything you have, the utopia that Obama kept saying would be brought about. Because everybody's now going to be totally free, they're going to be totally equal, they're going to be without any fear because nobody's going to be around to hurt them anymore. That's what the blacks are advocating in these protests. We don't need the police, we got to get rid of the police, we got to defund the police. It's a nightmare to see that as Americans, the government is standing up and saying that the Constitution and what it's supposed to give, which is the freedom for all humanity, is now going to be subverted to the communist attitude that when they control the world through the global world government, everybody's going to be happy. And for 8 years we heard that. Why do I keep bringing up Obama? Because every time you turn around, the guy shows up for some event. He's this constant demonic symbol that keeps showing himself on television through ads, through everything we see. It's like they think he's still the president. He's still the one that speaks for this world because of how he looks at everything. And when you see these facts and you put it together, you realize who else could be the Antichrist but Barack Obama when he does all this stuff and gets away with it. And they lash out and they attack law and order. They lash out against common sense, against sane laws and rules that have always governed our world. And they say, we don't need these things anymore. We don't want these anymore. And then they use the Black Lives Matter subject to say that's the only reason we need to bring this about, because they've been singled out by the police. The statistics probably would show, if the media ever said this, that blacks as well as whites and Latinos have been just equally targeted, probably since the time of the first real Mexican crossings began. That they're not the only ones that are targeted, but see, the blacks have this overpowering voice right now that seems to just kind of, it speaks out about itself. And what's happening with them getting this national and global attention is what the communists, the socialists wanted from the beginning. And all of it centers around the Illuminati, who have been around for like, what, 200 something years? 240 years the Illuminati has been involved in America. And America, of course, was founded because we came from England. And England itself is now saying that the blacks have more rights to say injustice is their personal vendetta to take out all law and order around the world. And you look at it and you say all of it centers around one philosophy. And that's what the socialists, the communists have been trying to say to all of us. You're nothing unless your government tells you you're something. Your rights don't exist if it is in contradiction to their philosophies that people must be equal to each other everywhere in the world. That's why you keep seeing them saying over and over again that third world countries must be brought up to the level of civilized, industrialized nations financially, so that then all of them more or less can then be seen on the status quo as equal to each other. Venezuela, who became bankrupt, who knows what's going on there? They ain't been talking about it in the media since all those things happened. Because, see, communism will help itself as it progresses around the world. And America is the last place on earth where there was freedom. The blacks are proving to all of us all of that is gone, because the communists and the socialists, and Obama is the head of all of it, they have taken over this nation. They are abolishing your individuality as a person, because now they're telling us through the blacks, your very thoughts are now under our control. They're under our personal monitoring, under our stipulation of whether or not you can think that way or say that. And though the police have the legal authority to use force against people when they reject law, what the socialists are saying is, well, the blacks have that right to retaliate, but everybody else have nothing, because they're not saying under Black Lives Matter it's about their rights. It isn't about anyone else's. They should have a motto that says all lives matter, but they're not saying that because they think it's about them. They think this whole revolution is about their race. And when they bring out why they're doing all this, inevitably it's going to be them saying because we descend from slaves. And they can't accept that. They can't accept the fact that there have been several other cultures throughout history who have been slaves, but when blacks were brought here from Africa, it infuriated them, and their descendants have had that hate ever since. So the socialists are now using it to bring about this global world order and to say, you don't need a gun, you don't need anything. Who kept saying that, folks? Barack Obama kept saying that. For 8 years he said that. You don't need a gun. You don't need anything to protect yourself. You don't need money. He said, I'm going to take your money and I'm going to choose who gets it, who's entitled to it, who deserves it. What did Joe the plumber say? Hey, you know what? You can't take money from somebody who earned it and worked for it. Barack Obama said, yeah, I am. I'm going to do what I want with your money. This is communism directly in front of us. This is socialism playing out. And most people are just so empathetic to groups who have always been seen as deprived or impoverished. And that represents the black community. So now they're all kind of like just joining in on this philosophy that we must give them whatever they want. And what is it they want? They want to control what we are and who we are and what we think. This is not about justice, and it certainly is not about peace. Because when the socialists take over, you're not going to have any of that. Because the only inevitable outcome is going to be they're going to take out everything you have from your home. They're going to start showing up once that sanctuary becomes reality. They're going to say, you don't need that food. Somebody else needs that food. That's what Barack Obama kept saying. You don't need this, you don't need that. We're going to decide for you what you have, what you are allowed to have, everything else. Folks, this is nightmare reality today. That's what the communists are trying to say. We are now in control, and Obama is going to be the only hope you have, because he's going to take out everything we've got, everything we were, everything. They're going to take us out. And folks, if we don't stand up now, it's over. Communism will take over and control and manipulate, and then, you know, the blacks may think, oh, this is so great, we're going to finally get what we're entitled to. And long term, folks, it may be good for them, but then you're going to see this whole thing switch. And then those individuals that the blacks give this authority to are going to turn around and take it all away and say, this is not going to help. And all you have to do is look at 8 years of Obama and see that. This is reality, folks. This is what's happening. It's going on right now all over the world. And people have been trying to say this on the internet for the past decade. Socialism and communism are bad. They're evil. And there's just so many millennials who have not they ain't taught their children nothing. Neither did their own parents teach them anything. So now they're brain dead because they don't know anything else. And that's not an excuse to just let it all happen. You have a responsibility to stand up for what's right. If you turn from that reality, then you're as guilty as those who themselves don't want responsibility. Rapper Mike said, we have what we want as blacks. We were given totally, completely free marijuana. We were given all the narcotics we could possibly use. And now they're saying socialists are letting us have everything else too. This is what reality is happening today in this country. Why are they doing it? In a nutshell, it's because in the next 6 months or 5 months, we're going to be voting. The socialists are doing it all out of complete panic. Yeah, they're taking control, absolutely, but the only bastion of hope America still has is the Electoral College and our right as American citizens to vote. If enough potheads vote for Biden, for communism, for socialism, you can erase what was America for 240 years. It's going to be gone. And this is what the socialists and the communists want. They're going to put Obama in there. They're going to take away everything else. And what is it going to look like? It's going to look like fascist Nazi Germany. Because Obama said he was a socialist. There are now groups all over the world calling themselves the National Socialist Party. They use a rose in their symbols. Folks, this is the end of our fighting for our rights. Because now they're saying, we're going to take it all out. We're going to take everything away from you. This is reality today, ladies and gentlemen. You must be responsible. It's time for you to take action. When you vote, you have to keep President Trump in there, because if communism takes over this nation, everything else will fall. And that includes your rights as an American, your rights as a human being. The communists accept and adhere to the global constitution. What is that? That's the United Nations Constitution. It clarifies itself and says all human beings are animals. You are not a higher life form. The Constitution of the Global World Order says you are now an animal. Now they will use the specification of saying you are a complicated animal. In other words, they devalued the human body, the human being, to the level of your pet dog or your cat. When they devalue human life, it means they don't care what you are, who you are. They won't care what happens, because this means the society itself doesn't care anymore what happens to themselves, to anybody else. This is it. This is your last chance to stand for being human, for being humane, for being free, and for standing for your legal rights to be a person. The communists are going to take it away, and they're going to say you don't need it because we know what's right. We know what's best. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, Obama used high-definition TV to scramble your brain. And he did. Because so many people are using the examples of suppression from blacks, suppressions of this, that, and now the communists are just reaching to everything and everybody and saying this is the only inevitable outcome because we know what's right. The people who represent President Trump's base, they're trying to say you're idiots, you don't know anything, you don't know what's right. These are the people who fought during the Second World War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. You don't stand up for what your ancestors fought for. You're saying, we don't care, we never cared. You have to stand up, ladies and gentlemen, for freedom. Thank you for watching this video, and
They've reported from from around the world challenge the powerful, and they bring all of this to every story that breaks.
We've got breaking news, and it's good news.
And touches your heart.
How do you even say thank you? Thank you is not big enough.
I made this.
The images shocked the world. Relentless bombings. Stunned survivors.
a thing about this.
That's you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. That's you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.